Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. Today I want to take a closer look at one of the more unconventional characters in the 41st millennium, Tau Sub-Commander El Miyamoto, also known as Darkstrider. Now, before I kick off, I want to offer a bit of context so that you can see why Darkstrider is seen as unconventional, particularly in Tau society. You may know that the Tau are separated into a strict caste system, which is decided for each individual at birth and places them within one of the 5 different social groups in Tau society. You have the air caste, who serve as pilots for the Tau Navy and the various aircraft and air defences that serve in the Tau military. You have the water caste, who work as traders, merchants, public servants and diplomats. You also have the earth caste, who are responsible for all the manufacturing, agriculture and engineering that fuels the expansion of the Tau Empire. Perhaps more well known are the fire caste. These make up the millions of warriors who protect the Tau Empire, all of whom are guided by a strict code of conduct called the Code of Fire. This code, above all things, calls for the respect of the military hierarchy and those with superior knowledge and experience. In short, and bear this in mind, when you're in the fire caste, you do as you're told. And finally, sitting above all other castes are the ethereals. These are the undisputed rulers of the Tau Empire and have a spiritual role as well as a political one at the heart of Tau culture. As such, it largely falls on them to steer the empire towards greater prosperity and to be obeyed by all of the other castes on that journey. Being born into the fire caste, Darkstrider spent his early years perfecting himself in the arts of martial combat and, when he was of age, joining the ranks of the fire warriors to serve on the front lines in conflicts across Tau space. It's important to note that all members of the fire caste, from its supreme commanders to its pathfinders, will start their military careers in this way. However, after 4 years, each will have the opportunity to undertake a trial by fire. These are ritualistic challenges that show a warrior's growing prowess, and passing each will see them promoted to a new rank in the caste. These ranks include Shazwi, who are able to pilot battlesuits, Shavri, who are viewed as exceptional heroes of Tau society, Shazel, which is a Tau commander in training, and Shaz-O, a fully fledged Tau commander. Having passed his first trial by fire after 4 years as a fire warrior, Darkstrider was permitted to don a battlesuit and serve alongside his fellow Shazwi. However, and this is where signs of his infamous personality began to show, he declined, something that was almost unheard of in the fire caste. Instead, he chose to serve as a pathfinder, scouting ahead of the main Tau force to carry out reconnaissance on the enemy. Not long after, and in recognition of his accolades in the field, Darkstrider was again invited to serve within a battlesuit unit, this time the stealth suits. It was believed that his talent for reconnaissance would be served well in a unit that also spent much of the time in the midst of enemy territory. And yet once again he refused, claiming that he could serve the Empire far better as a pathfinder than he ever could inside a battlesuit, a comment that certainly infuriated a few of his fellow Shazwi, who took a lot of pride in their rank and the battlesuits it permitted them to wear. Nonetheless, Darkstrider did serve the Tau Empire exceptionally well in the years that followed, leading his pathfinders into some of the most perilous conflict zones in the galaxy and achieving victory after victory despite near suicidal odds. On the moons of Galith, for example, he and his pathfinders had to brave a Necron tomb to disable strange and unknown mechanisms that threatened the very core worlds of the Tau Empire. He also personally hunted down a 3-headed Tyranid beast that was terrorising the mining colonies of Neptune, putting the stalking beast down with a well-timed photon grenade and a clip from his pulse carbine. And it was during the Great Wars of Confederation where Darkstrider earned his ominous nickname, sneaking into the heart of the Orc camps to personally mark alike components being used in the Great Gargant factories. And yet, for all his exceptional heroics and achievements, Darkstrider continued to spurn further offers of promotion and command, instead returning to his pathfinders to lead further stealth and raiding missions behind enemy lines. But it wasn't just the clandestine nature of his operations that drew the Shazwi back to the Pathfinders time and time again. It was the freedom he had to operate ahead of the main Tau force, and crucially, beyond the overbearing council of its commanders. In fact, many Tau commanders now refuse to work with him precisely because he refuses to follow their advice, something anathema to the ways of the fire caste, and he is seen to constantly bend the rules of authority to the point of insubordination, but always stopping just short of that line. However, many have also seen how Darkstrider's unorthodox approach and innate ability to survey battlefields and target weak points in the enemy's formations using his structural analyzer has ultimately grasped victory from impossible odds. One such person is Commander Shadowsun, who herself has been prone to impulsive and unconventional tactics, particularly against the White Scars during the Third Sphere expansion. In truth though, Darkstrider does not care for the respect and understanding of his superiors. He only cares for the success of the Tau on the battlefield and the lives of the warriors he serves with on the front lines. And this was perhaps most clear during a nail-biting encounter during the War for Mughalath Bay. As the Third Sphere expansion continued to gather pace, and the Tau Empire claimed victory after victory over the Imperium, messages were intercepted suggesting that Commander Farsight, leader of the Farsight Enclave, was being pursued by a Vindicare assassin. Darkstrider was tasked with scouting ahead of the commander to locate, track and eliminate the assassin, a pretty incredible feat for any warrior, let alone a Tau Pathfinder unit. While other Pathfinder and Stealth Suit units joined the hunt, Darkstrider's structural analyzer picked up ghost signals that seemed unusual given the natural terrain and early intelligence on the location. Following his instincts, he ordered his Pathfinders to follow the signals, contrary to the orders they had been given. It didn't take long though before those instincts started to be proven right. Among the nearby ruins of an Imperial Manufactorum, Darkstrider and his team came across a massacre. Another unit of Pathfinders, 8 in total, had all been killed without a single one of their pulse carbines firing a shot. How could any enemy outmatch the training and AI support of the Tau in such extremes, thought Darkstrider, let alone a single assassin? There was no time to dwell though. The trail was leading towards the lines of the Farsight Enclave, meaning the assassin was closing in on his target. Darkstrider and his Pathfinders continued to move through the ruins, occasionally coming across skirmishes between the Tau and Imperial forces. In these moments, they quietly outflanked the enemy and brought their firepower to bear on the weakest parts of their formations, paving the way for the main Tau force, made predominantly of crisis battlesuits, to surge forward and push the Imperium back. Soon, Darkstrider's structural analyzer picked up another nearby signal, this time stronger. The assassin was likely close, but it could not pinpoint where exactly. Scanning the terrain, the Shazwi spotted a tall structure overlooking the ruins for miles in all directions. That was where the assassin would be, he thought, and he led his team closer. A few miles away, perched in an alcove at the top of the spire, the Vindicare patiently waited. He had anticipated that Commander Farsight would join the battle soon to help consolidate his forces, and this tower overlooked a clearing that seemed the most likely landing zone for his Orca dropship. An hour later, the rushing sound of the Orca's thrusters could be heard overhead, and the hulking lander gently lowered itself down into the clearing, just in sight of the Vindicare's scope. A moment later, the red armoured battlesuits that made up the commander's bodyguard began to fan out around the Orca. The Vindicare made a few final calibrations, holding his breath to maintain total stillness. Then, as Farsight emerged from the dropship and landed at the foot of its ramp, the Vindicare pulled the trigger. The special shield breaker round that the assassin had loaded smashed through Farsight's protective shielding, obliterating his personal shield generator, and stunning the commander for the few seconds the Vindicare needed to retrain his next round on his head. However, Farsight's retinue were no typical bodyguard. They had protected the Shazo in some of the most perilous situations imaginable, and had developed almost supernatural instincts that kicked in whenever their leader was in mortal danger. As such, the nearest battlesuit, hearing the sound of the bullet passing through the commander's shield generator, leapt in front of Farsight as the second round was fired. The Vindicare had not anticipated the speed of the retinue's reflexes, and his second shot, which was not a shield breaker this time, shattered against the bodyguard's shield, sparing Farsight's life. Now the situation switched rapidly. Having announced his position, the Vindicare quickly found himself targeted by a wave of Farsight Enclave warriors, all while Farsight's retinue moved into position around the commander to ensure the assassin would not get a second chance. Realising this, the Vindicare turned his Extus rifle on any warrior in range, felling an entire unit of fire warriors before they could reach the safety of a nearby building, and sending a pair of crisis suits spinning wildly as a bullet was put through each of their canopies. A Riptide battlesuit slumped to its knees, and then a Piranha skimmer smashed into a building. The Vindicare's rifle spared none as the Tau struggled to find a semblance of order amidst the chaos. Eventually, the Vindicare realised his position was compromised, and he leapt from the spire and made a tumbling roll onto the building below, only to find himself suddenly ambushed from all sides by Darkstrider and his Pathfinders. Reading the chaos of the battle, Darkstrider had positioned himself in the only logical escape route for the assassin, fanning his unit out to ensure that the Vindicare had nowhere else to run. Pulse carbines blazed, and while the Vindicare possessed a lightning agility, the AI built into the Pathfinder's scopes anticipated his movements, striking him several times and blasting the Extus rifle from his hands. Seeing the Vindicare reaching for his Extus pistol, Darkstrider flung a photon grenade towards him. The throw was perfectly timed, detonating just as the assassin was raising his pistol and bathing the rooftop with a blinding array of multi-spectrum light. Severely disorientated by this, the Vindicare could only resort to memory to shoot at where he thought his opponents were. But Vindicares are trained for situations just like this, and he still managed to kill 6 Pathfinders and wound Darkstrider while firing blindly. The game was up though. Darkstrider, who had shielded his eyes from the light moments before, closed in on the blinded Vindicare, his pulse carbine shredding the assassin's stealth suit and flesh in seconds. Still, Darkstrider closed in further, blasting away at point-blank range, every shot a chilling cry and revenge for his fallen comrades, until his clips were empty and the Vindicare long dead. Since that day, Darkstrider has continued to lead his Pathfinders in support of the Tau's beleaguered 5th Sphere expansion, which has stumbled in the face of numerous Genestealer cult uprisings. Given that such cults often serve as precursors to Tyranid hive fleets, it's clear that Darkstrider's talents for reconnaissance and unorthodox tactics will be needed more than ever, lest the Tau's latest expansion turn into a full-blown retreat. So that's a quick glimpse at one of the Tau's most interesting characters, Darkstrider. What do you think, and what do you expect the 41st Millennium has in store for him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, I want to say thank you for joining me today. If you liked the video, please do consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel for more Warhammer content, and I do hope you'll join me for my next video. Until then though, do take care.